President Kgalema Motlanthe has urged women parliamentarians to take a leading role in the fight against HIV and AIDS. He was speaking at the first SADC Women's Parliament held in Seychelles.
Southern African Regional Bloc has the highest HIV/AIDS infection rate in the world. In countries such as South Africa and Zimbabwe, the infection rate is about 2,000 a month among girls within the 15 to 24-year-old age group. It's for this reason that SADC Parliamentary Forum, in partnership with the United Nations, civil society organizations and development partners, organized the first Women's Parliament in Seychelles. This to discuss and share ideas on HIV/AIDS among women and girls. The Parliament reviewed progress made in implementing Resolution 60 Section 2 of the United Nations Commission that focuses on women, girls and HIV/AIDS. Because women suffer from the ripple effects of HIV, the onus is on members of Parliament, especially women, to drive the crusade against HIV/AIDS.
This Women's Parliament is concerned with ending unacceptably high rates of HIV infection among women and girls. As members of Parliament, we have gathered here for those women and girls. As elected representatives of the people, we have the power and the mandate to make a difference in the lives of our people.
This comes as some countries in the region are failing to cope with new infections, especially among the youth. Most affected are girls of school-going age who are deprived of an empowerment tool, education, that can offer them choices in life. Hence, former heads of state and government have been roped in to help in the fight against HIV.
I'm endeavoring to ensure that all the women of Africa do what we need to do in Africa first. And that is very pertinent to this forum. We can talk about everything, but without Africa being peaceful and secure and free of conflict, whatever policies we make will go down the drain.
But we develop a guide to a comprehensive healthcare system rather than one designed to be merely curative. The healthcare system that we design should lay emphasis on prevention, prevention, prevention.
With less than 5% of the world's population, Southern Africa is home to half of the global population living with HIV. And for 16-year-old Zambian girl Natasha Mwasa, it's time the parliamentarians walk the walk.
I know it's very important to be decent and moral, and it can affect a lot of things, but then let's not always just tell the girl to stop putting on miniskirts or anything. Let's tell the man to have dignity and respect and to understand that this girl affects a lot of people. This girl is someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's future mother.
For this gathering, the message is clear. They will no longer be weakened by number of HIV/AIDS infections, but they vow to turn frightening HIV/AIDS statistics into positive action that will create an AIDS-free generation.
For more on the first Women's Parliament in SADC, we are now joined on the line by Dr. Iso Chivia, the Secretary General of the SADC Parliamentary Forum. A very good afternoon to you, Dr. Iso. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, what prompted the SADC Parliamentary Forum to organize the Women's Parliament?
Actually, you are joined by Dr. JESICA KABWILA. You are not with Dr. Iso Chivia. You are joined by the regional Women's Caucus chair, who was chairing that first parliament. Can I go ahead?
Oh yes, please be my guest. Our apologies for that.
Yes. Thank you. No, that's fine. Dr. Iso Chivia is our SG, but in terms of this, I'm better placed to explain to you what happened. What prompted this is because for the SADC Parliamentary Forum, we really want to show that we are the people we have said parliaments need to have many women in parliament. So in order to achieve that target, we wanted SADC Parliamentary Forum to see what parliament would look like if it had many women in it. That is what led to the resolution that was passed at the 40th plenary of SADC Parliamentary Forum at the Rainbow Towers in Zimbabwe. So at this parliament, it was of the member states, all the the national caucuses were present, and we had members and the chairs, and we had partners, development partners, and much more importantly, we had champions, that is former presidents of Namibia, former president of of South Africa and the former president of Uganda. These are champions who are fighting to end HIV for an AIDS-free generation. And what we were focusing on is UN Resolution 60/2, which is looking at how Africa can actually fight HIV and make sure that legislation on HIV is not only moved and gendered, but we truly find that the laws are making sure that people are living positively and they get access to medication. And we look at sexual reproductive health rights comprehensively so that issues of women empowerment are articulated and the women are helped to access the resources that they need. So that is what prompted us.
Roping in the former heads of state, how is this helping in the curbing of HIV and AIDS?
How are you are saying what helps? Why would you have heads of state at such a function?
Yeah, the former heads of state. How is that in any way helping to curb the spread of HIV?
Yeah, it helped a lot because they've got programs that they are running. I'll give you an example of the one chairing these champions is actually the former president of Botswana. What they are doing is they are working with members of parliament and with civil society and with different organizations to see how they can push not only legislation but implementation of the problems that are dogging those living with HIV. For example, they were explaining the kind of flagship programs that they are doing. So this has exposed the 14 countries in the SADC to how they can work with the champions to make sure that not only do we push legislation, but monitoring and evaluation systems. As a parliament, or let me say as a SADC forum that is looking forward to becoming a parliament, we need to work with the champions. We are not only working with them, we also had he for she champions that were with us. Remember, he for she is now in parliament and also in the executive. So just as we are working with the he for she champions, we also are mapping ways to work with the champions throughout the 14 countries to make sure that at regional level we are representing what is happening in SADC, but much more importantly, to make sure we map ways to trickle down this to the youth. Remember, this year we're talking about the demographic dividend. In this meeting, we were listening to the 16-year-old, the girl child, explaining what are their frustrations in terms of the intergenerational conversations of what to do in terms of fighting HIV and making sure that Resolution 60.2 really cascades to the youth who are often spoken for and not listened to for themselves. During this event, the former heads of state heard it for themselves in terms of what are the issues that these youth want and how can we invest in them instead of thinking that we can prescribe solutions to them.
All right, now from what we've observed, does Parliament really expeditiously and effectively, use its constitutional mandate to scrutinize the executive's role and, of course, response to HIV?
Yes, remember that we are saying that we want to move towards a parliament. The SADC Parliamentary Forum needs to come to full-blown parliament. But here we had sergeant at arms, we had people seated in a parliamentary style. The language used there was parliamentary. But as a mother, as the first of its kind, it also had a lot of things that needed us to work on. And we will be the first to say there were lessons learned on that day. For example, we passed the Mahé Declaration. The Mahé Declaration, because we're in Seychelles and we've passed it here, has outlined clearly that unless we look at the systemic causes of HIV, and we had 4 commissions. We had one on safe abortion, we had another one on SRHR, emerging issues. Now, if you look at all those, the 4 commissions, they then reported. I'm sure that when we do this for the second time, we will have this for longer, and we will have it much more appropriately done, and more grounded, and maybe better representation of the countries. But as of that day, what we were able to do exhaustively is to show that, number one, HIV is something that will not be just fought by looking at laws. by moving laws, but making sure that we implement and we look at the gender gaps in the laws that are being moved. And it's something that needs to be decentralized so that it reaches the rural area. So in that scope, the role of the executive, role of Parliament, the role of civil society was looked at. I would not say exhaustively, because remember, this was the first of its kind, but we're aiming at it being a yearly thing. I'm sure as we go into the second year, it shall be something that will have been worked out and chiseled better so that it services people of the region and they get to profit from it much better than what we did at the first time. But everything needs a beginning.
All right, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. He was speaking to us live from Seychelles.